New York Rangers fans are livid after another very poor performance and major changes being made to the lineup. It is clear that it is not working, and some players had some shocking comments to make after the game. We're going to break it all down here on this episode of Rangers Digest, but before we do, a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. About 70% of you who watch our videos are not actually subscribed to the channel. So if you want to do yourself a favor, it's free. Hit that subscribe button and you get to stay up to date with everything New York Rangers. And once again, a poor performance against the Buffalo Sabres, and fans are not happy. It is clearly not working. And I've tried to stay positive on the channel for the most part, but today there are some things we have to get into. Some very poor performances, and we're going to start with some shocking, honestly, I think there's shocking comments from some of the Rangers' best players. And we're going to start with the captain, Jacob Trouba, on tonight's game against Buffalo. He said, "I don't think we were ready to play. I don't think that's really secrets, what I'm going to say." Jacob, we've known that this game started at 7 p.m. since the schedule came out in June. Like, you have to come ready to play. What do you mean we didn't come ready to play? I think that is one of the most shocking comments of the year, because he is your captain of this team. And he said, "I don't think we're ready to play." You have to be ready to play. You're supposed to be one of the best teams in the National Hockey League this year. Your goal is to win the Stanley Cup. And you have a quote like that. That is pretty shocking to me. Like I said, you knew that this game, when it was and when it was going to start, for a very long time, and your job is to prepare for it. And clearly you did not do that. And some of the line combinations are not working, and we'll get to that as well. And I was being very optimistic about it because they put in a great performance just a couple days ago against the New York Islanders with these line combinations. But clearly, and I'm not just talking about the forwards, the defense too, some of it's not working. And Igor Shesterkin, right? I said in a previous video not too long ago, and even Peter Laviolette said it, you cannot rely on this guy the whole season. You can't, because it's just the way it is, and just the way the goaltenders are, and of course, you know, the peaks and valleys of a season. And again, tonight, we're going to get into his statistics. Not good, and he got pulled, right? And the goaltending, even Jonathan Quick, not good. Not good enough, and you know what? Sometimes you can't blame goalies. It's one game. Shesterkin's been great this year, right? But you cannot rely on him. The holes in their game, in the Rangers game, were exposed tonight because Igor was not on the very top of his game. And speaking of not on the top of your very game, Mika Zibanejad with a quote after this game as well. "There's no excuse for what happened today." But these are just words. These are just words from one of, or who's supposed to be one of your best players. Where is the accountability right now? There's no accountability, it seems, with some of these players. They're not showing up to play. They're saying that we weren't ready to play, and there's nothing going on. Like, I don't understand. There's no accountability right now. They should be playing better. And again, like I've said, I've tried to stay optimistic on the channel because I do believe, and we'll get to Keandre Miller in a second too, that a lot of these players can turn it around and have the potential to do that. They're not showing it right now, and they got to get out of it. They have to play better. Let's get into Shesterkin and the obvious stats of the Knights, and of course the booing that happened when they were booed off the ice. But from Peter Baugh, Igor Shesterkin had a save percentage of .583 tonight. He allowed 5 goals on 12 shots and got pulled after 33 minutes and 11 seconds. That's the lowest save percentage in any game Shesterkin had in his career in a minimum of 20 minutes of ice time. That is shocking. This is statistically his worst game ever. And it's the first time he was pulled in a game since October 19th, 2023. So over a calendar year ago. And this one shocked me because I didn't put it together. Jonathan Quick actually had more saves in this game than Igor Shesterkin, and you know, they only had 9 saves and 7 saves, respectively. And Quick was obviously put into the game with 6 minutes left in the second because Buffalo scored 3 goals in 2 minutes, and that in itself is ridiculous. After you're scored on, you have to respond appropriately. The Rangers did not do that again. And obviously, after the second period, fans at the Garden booing them off the ice. And I think, you know, at this point in time, it is warranted. They're off to a relatively good start to the season, but there are a lot of holes in their game right now that a lot of people could see, even when they were winning, that were exposed in this game because Igor Shesterkin was not the best goalie on the ice tonight. And we knew that at some point that would probably happen, and it was exposed tonight, and that's a problem. One person I do want to highlight, because you can highlight certain players even in a loss, and I want to keep it somewhat optimistic, is I think Will Cooley's game since he became a Ranger and this season has been fantastic, and he deserves to be on that second line. He deserves to be promoted. He's been playing great. I keep saying it on the channel. Love his physicality, love his speed, love the way he plays. He was the only goal scorer for the Rangers in a 6-1 loss tonight, and he deflected a backhand shot by Zach Jones, who was analytically, statistically, whatever you want to call it, the best player for the Rangers on the ice tonight, and we'll get into the advanced analytics in a second. And obviously, there was some complaints of a high stick, but it counted anyway. Buffalo didn't challenge for that. But from Vince, this is a great point as well, and this is exactly what I'm trying to say. It's been 2 weeks, about 2 weeks, where, yes, they've been putting together some wins, but they haven't looked good. They have not looked sharp. They have not looked in games. They've come away with wins at some point, or at points, right? They've come away with some wins that maybe they didn't necessarily deserve. And today, a lot of it was exposed. And I think a lot of fans are worried about this, are legitimately worried about this. And if you look at the advanced analytics, Zach Jones again, and Braden Schneider, two of the best players on the ice for you tonight. Very small positive impact. Of course, there's a lot of negative tonight. The pairing, and I talked about them earlier in a video earlier today that I made today about the pairing of K'Andre Miller and Jacob Trouba and how I thought they were going to figure it out. They were the worst players for the Rangers on the ice tonight. They were the worst players, and I don't even think you need advanced analytics to see that. Probably just the eye test. This was a bad game. This was a very bad game, and I'm very interested to see how they respond because they have not been playing great. It's not like one bad performance where you can bounce back and you say, okay, we'll put that behind us. This was a poor performance and a poor effort that they have to bounce back and respond to. And I thought this was an interesting point too. It's interesting. You can't pin it on one player. You can pin it on a few players, and you also can say, some players are not performing the way that they should be. But the Rangers have certainly looked a little bit worse since Lindgren came back, and maybe a mix with some of the, chemistry that they were building together. Mancini's been in and out of the lineup. Zach Jones has been in and out of the lineup, and I'm not saying it's Lindgren's fault, but it's interesting. It kind of messed with the chemistry, and they have been kind of slowly heading downhill in terms of their play. Obviously, still picking up wins here and there, but not sustainable. It was not sustainable the way they were playing, and I thought the way they changed up the lines, maybe it could be, and it would get certain players going. I thought, I kept saying, I thought that, putting K'Andre Miller and Jacob Trouba back together would help the other defensive pairings and also them because of their play style. If you have K'Andre Miller with Adam Fox, that's not a good matchup. That's really not a good matchup, but I talked about it in a previous video. But this was a tough one, and they need to bounce back to earn the trust back of Rangers fans at this point in time because yes, it's one loss. They won their last game, but it's the effort. It's the effort the last 2 weeks. They have not looked good, and you knew there were certain holes in their game that were being, patched up by Igor Shesterkin, but we knew at some point, and I've been talking about it the last couple of videos, that you cannot rely on him the whole time because at some point he will not be the best goaltender on the ice or the best player on the ice, and you're going to find out a couple things about your team. So this game may have told us a little bit about this year's New York Rangers team. They need to play more physical. They need to play heavier, and not just like the role players. Your best players need to lead by example, and for you to come out, they're your best players to come out and say things that don't really hold any accountability is very interesting to me. I'm very interested to see how this team responds, and Peter Laviolette's response to this as well, because you know what, he is the coach here, and he has to take some control at least and kind of right the ship here. So it's going to be very interesting. Let me know in the comments what you thought of this loss and the performance after the last couple of games. It has not been great, but let me know what you think in the comments. And if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with everything New York Rangers.